whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other, okay? And those steps that we're doing are the inverse operations. That's just a math term for the opposite, okay? Okay, so you want to be doing the opposite of what's shown. So if I'm trying to get my variable m on a side by itself, I need to get rid of this plus 12, okay? If I need to get rid of this plus 12, I need to do the opposite of plus 12, which would be minus 12. Okay, so if I get to this problem, I should be starting off with a minus 12 to both sides. Okay. Some people like to draw a line down the equal sign to make sure that they're doing the step on both sides. Okay, I probably won't do that often, but visually, if that helps you out to remember to do the step to both sides, you can do that. All right. So when we go through this step, we're not doing anything to m, right? Nothing happened to m, so m's just going to drop down. So you'll have m. All right. What is happening is you are canceling out that 12, right? Because we know 12 minus 12 is 0, right? And it goes away. Okay, so we'll have our equal sign, and then we have 10 minus 12. 10 minus 12 is negative 2. Okay, so your answer here is m equals negative 2. Okay, my answer here is m equals negative 2. Somebody tell me what my answer is. M equals negative 2. Somebody else tell me what my answer is. M equals negative 2. Is this my answer?
No.
No. What is my answer?
M
equals negative 2. Okay. If you put in just negative 2, you will not get credit. Okay. Sometimes maybe on Khan Academy it might do something like m is equal to, and then it'll give you a blank, and then you would just put negative 2. Okay, but notice that when they do that, they still have the m is equal to. Does that say x is equal to? No. Why does it say m? We used m. Okay, x and m, both variables, but different because this is the one we used in the problem, right? So you need to be paying attention to that as you work. All right. So we can see on number 2, we've got the variable on the right side now. Does that really make any difference? No, okay. So we're still trying to get everything away from it. So if I see here I've got g minus 9, and I want g on the side by itself, I need to do the inverse, the opposite operation to that minus 9 to both sides. Okay, my g drops down, I've got negative 2 plus 9. Okay, that's going to be 7, and then my g drop down, that cancels. Okay, 7 equals g. That is the same thing as g is equal to 7. Okay, that is the same thing. So you can reverse that. All right, number 3. Okay, number 3. What operation is happening between this negative 7 and the y? What? Multiplying, right? So what is the opposite of multiplying? What's that opposite? Division. Okay, so we want to divide. Okay, what are we dividing away? We want y on the side by itself. So we need to divide by what? We need to divide by the negative 7. Negative 7. Okay, negative 7. Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, and the reason is because we should know that, and this is just a different example, 3 divided by 3 is what?
0.
Is what?
0.
Is 1.
Oh, no.
Is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So, what is 7 divided by 7? 1. 8 divided by 8? 1. Negative 2 divided by negative 2?
Negative 1. No, 1?
1, right? Because we got a negative and a negative.
Oh, yeah.
We know 2 negatives make a positive, right? So, the reason that's important is because this will cancel and it should leave us with 1. 1, y. Y. Right? There's an understood 1 in front of the y. Okay, so you've got y is equal to, okay, and then you've got negative 91 divided by negative 7, which is 13. So your answer is is equal to 13. G is equal to 7. All right, when we see a fraction, so when we did this is a fraction, right? 3 over 3, that's a fraction, but we did what when we looked at this?
Divide.
We divided. So anytime that you see a fraction, what operation is happening?
Dividing.
Division, right? So what's the opposite of division?
Multiplication.
Multiplication, okay? So for us to get rid, we need to multiply by the reciprocal, and we'll talk about this in just a second, okay? The reciprocal, here on number 4, we've got the fraction. I know it says A, but what's the number in front of A?
4.
1,
Okay.
okay? So we got 1 over 9. Okay, the reciprocal is the opposite, okay, which is 9 over 1. Okay, what is the reciprocal for this fraction? 3 over 2. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? So, in order to get rid of this 9 here, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. 9 over 1, 9 divided by 1 is what? 9, right? So we're going to multiply by 9 to both sides. Okay, we'll cancel, that will cancel out and leave us with 1A. We've got A is equal to negative 4 times 9, which is negative 36. All right, and this will be important on these next few problems because we're going to be working with fractions on them. All right, somebody remind me how to use a fraction on the calculator. Alpha y equals. That's got to be just permanently in your head for this semester at least, right? Alpha y equals, anytime you see a fraction, you should know alpha y equals, okay? All right, so let's move on to number 5. Okay, let's move on to number 5. All right, so number 5, what's my fraction? All right, first let me fill this out. To get rid of a fraction, multiply by the
Reciprocal.
Reciprocal. I might have spelled that wrong, but I did.
I think it's supposed to be a reciprocal.
And this is supposed to be an
Reciprocal.
maybe, all right. That's it. That's it. A reciprocal. All right, so the reciprocal is just the opposite fraction, which basically just means flipped, right? So what is my reciprocal for 2/3? 3 over 2, 3 halves, right? And we need to do that to both sides. We got 3 over 2. So what will happen is this will cancel out. All right, let me show you why this will cancel out. So let me take a second here. So when we have a fraction 2/3, okay, and we multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 3 halves. Does anybody remember how to multiply fractions? What do you do? Okay, you're thinking about division, okay? When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. Okay, so this 2 gets multiplied into 3, that becomes 6. This 3 gets multiplied by the 2, it becomes 6. 6 over 6 is 1. Right? So that's why we're doing this, because we want there to be still 1x. We want there to still be the x there. Then you have 10 times 3 halves, so that's 10 times 3, which is 30, divided by 2, which is 15. Okay, I did that just in my head, but obviously I would encourage y'all to do it on the calculator using alpha y equals, right? 10 times 3 halves. You end up with x is equal to 15.
You like
What?
doing it that way?
Say it again.
I said you like doing it that way.
Yeah. Reciprocal for number 7. Reciprocal for number 7 is what? 5
6
negative 5 over 6. Negative 5 over six. Doesn't matter if I have negative 5 over 6 or 5 over negative 6. Does it matter the difference between these two? I see one saying no. I agree with the one saying no, right? Because both of these will still be negative, right? Negative in the end, okay? Which is essentially the same, okay? So we need to multiply by a negative 5, 6 to both sides. That will be canceled on that left side, and we're left with K. All right, and then using your calculator, it looks like an E. All right, so use your calculator. 12 times negative 5 over 6. All right, alpha y equals for the fraction, so 12 times negative 5 over 6 gives me 10. Negative 10, right? Negative 10 should be. All right. Any questions or problems with fractions? Sweet. All right. Let's move to two-step equations. Okay, so basically the same thing as one-step equations, but just has another step now. All right. Usually, the way you're going to work these, the majority of the time, when you have a two-step equation, is you want to get rid of the addition and subtraction first, then go to your multiplication division. All right, so if that's the case, what do I need to do first on number 9? Say it. Subtract 8. Subtract 8 from both sides. All right, so if our first step is to undo the addition or subtraction, we had an addition of 8. The opposite here, Trevor, is subtract 8. All right, and we did that to both sides. Okay, so we've got the 6x that we haven't done anything to yet, so it's just dropping down, right? So it'll just come down and still be 6x. Then we have equals to 50 minus 8, which is 42. All right? My last step here is to do what? Divide by what? 6. All right, divide by 6, and you've got x is equal to 42 divided by 6, which is 7. And that's all there is to it, just one extra step. Okay, but we've seen both of these steps individually on the problems that we worked up above, right? All right, so let's look at 11. Okay, look at 11. What's my first step? Subtract by 9 on both sides. Okay, we got 13 minus 9, which is 4. We're gonna drop down. We got equals, and then we're gonna drop down by negative 4k. All right, last step here is to divide by negative 4. And you end up with negative 1 is equal to k. What is the same thing as negative 1 is equal to k? We did this above where I wrote it 2 different ways. K is equal to negative 1. K is equal to negative 1. That's the same thing. Any questions there? All right, remember with these problems, I know 2 and 4 I worked. I didn't work 6 and 8, 10 and 12. These are on Canvas. You got the key if you want more notes for that, where you can fill that in. Okay. So let's move to the back side here. We've got x over 2 is equal to negative 7. I'm sorry, I read that completely wrong. X over 2 minus 7 is equal to 9. All right. So my first step here, if we want to get rid of the addition and subtraction first, is to add 7, right? We've got a minus 7, so for me to get rid of that, I need to add 7. All right, what drops down? What have I not messed with?
The x over 2.
The x over 2. X over 2. All right, that cancels. You have an equal sign. You got 9 plus 7, which is
2.
9 plus 7 is 16. Subtract it there. All right, we see a fraction. When we see a fraction, we need to think reciprocal, the opposite fraction, which is 2 over 1, which is, what's the same thing as 2 over 1? 2, right? 7 over 1 is the same thing as 7. 100 over 1 is the same thing as 100. Negative 13 over 1 is negative 13. Okay. Alright, so that will get rid of our denominator. That's the part on the bottom of your fraction. Okay, we're going to multiply by 2 on both sides. You end up with x is equal to 16 times 2, which
32.
is 32. X is equal to 32. Alright, 15. What's my first step?
Subtract 22.
Subtract 22. Subtract 22. Okay, you get 3 over 5x, so 3/5 x is equal to 28 minus 22, which is 6. Okay, what's my flipped fraction, my reciprocal?
5 over 3.
5 over 3, that's what we need to multiply by. Okay, that will get rid of it on my left side. We need to multiply by it on our right side. Okay, 5 over 3, so 6 times 5 over 3, we'll have x is equal to 6 times 5, which is 30. 30 divided by 3, which is 10. When y'all plug that in the calculator, you got 10 as well, right? Yes. Remember, we're using alpha y equals whenever possible. It makes your fractions cleaner, right? Any questions on 13, 15? Any questions there? All right, let's look at 17. Let's look at 17. 17, what's my first step? All right, we're gonna add the 10. Why is this problem more confusing?
Because it's already negative.
Because the reason this problem's more confusing is usually we see our variable first, and then we've got a plus a 7 or something, and then you've got a number, whatever that is. Usually you see variable, number, right? And this problem has number, variable, number. Okay, it might look a little bit more confusing. It's no different. You still want your first step, if possible, to be that addition and subtraction, which Aiden pointed out for us right here. We had a minus 10, so we needed to add it, right? That's going to be our first step. So that'll cancel. Drop down 7 over 4p, and you end up with negative 38 plus 10, which is negative 28. My flipped fraction here is 4 over 7. That'll cancel on our left side. 4 over 7. Okay, you end up with p is equal to what? Negative 28 times 4 over 7, which is negative 16. Negative 16. Is it making sense? Yes, no? Alright, I know I could probably work 19 on this same screen, but I'm gonna scroll down because we only got 2 left, 19 and 21. Okay. Any questions on 17? Alright, what would your first step be on 18? We're not gonna work it, but I wanna know what the first step is. What's the first step on 18? Subtract 9, right? 9 is positive, so you need to subtract it, okay? Alright, let's look at 19 and 20, okay? So these are some examples where you would actually have to multiply or divide first, okay? So looking at this, you start off with a fraction, right? This whole, that x plus 11 is in a fraction, right? With the 8 as a denominator. Okay, when you see that, you can't start off with minus 11 because it's in a fraction. Okay, so you got to get rid of the fraction first. Okay, so really what we have up here is 1 times x plus 11 over 8 is equal to negative 3. That's basically what we have. Okay, they don't have the 1 out in front, okay, but this is the same thing. So what is really the fraction for this problem? What's my fraction here? What's my fraction? 1/8. that's what we need to multiply by. Okay, really, when they write this, they could write this as 1/8 times x plus 11. Okay, but they go ahead and throw the whole thing over 8. Okay, this, and this are the exact same things. So that's something that you need to kind of see in your head when you work this problem. This and this are same things, and that's gonna help you figure out what my fraction is that I need to multiply by, okay? So I've got 1/8, we found out that the reciprocal of that is 8, so I'm gonna multiply both sides by 8. And that will cancel that out. Okay, you've got x plus 11 is equal to -3 times 8, that's -24. Now what's my last step here? Subtract 11 from both sides. And you end up with x is equal to -24 minus 11, which is -35. Alright, any questions here? Alright, so number 21, what would be my fraction? What did we multiply here? We multiplied basically what my denominator was, what the bottom number was, okay? What's my bottom number on 21? -6, okay, so that's what we want to multiply by, is -6, -6, okay? That will cancel here. You've got -6 times 1, which is -6, is equal to a minus 13. A minus 13. Okay. What's my last step? What's the last thing I need to do here? We need to add 13 to both sides. Okay, we had a minus 13, so we need to add 13. I had a lot of quiet time there, and a lot of people looking at me. If you have a question, you need to ask it, right? Jalen, pull your mask up. All right, so you got -6 plus 13. -6 plus 13 gives me what? 7. We got 7 is equal to A. We've said that's the same thing as A is equal to 7. All right, last problem, but I do have one more thing I want to show you, and one thing I want to remind you of. Okay, equations are really good in the fact that you can always check your answers. So really, for an equation problem, there's no reason to get it wrong. If you want to go back and check it, you can. Let me show you how. Okay, so let's go and look at a problem like, let's see, 2x plus 8 is equal to 16. Okay, so 2x plus 8 is equal to 16. What's my first step here? Subtract 8. Okay, so we're going to subtract 8. Okay, 16 minus 8 is 8, so you got 2x is equal to 8. Okay, now what? Divide by 2. You get x is equal to 4. Alright, so it tells you what x is equal to, just like the expressions we worked on the last 2 days, right? You could plug back in with an expression. Y'all remember that, yes? Okay, so here, if I know x is equal to 4, then I can put 4 back into my equation where x is. Okay, so I can say 2 times, well, x is 4, we know that, so 2 times 4 plus 8, this should be equal to 16, right? So 2 times 4 is 8, so you got 8 plus 8 is equal to 16. What's 8 plus 8? 16. 16 equals 16, is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the same numbers, yes. All right, if I ended up with something like 10 is equal to 16, what's that mean? We worked the problem wrong, right? And that would not work. You would need to go back and try it again. All right, so you can always check your answers with these if you want, okay? All right, you got a little bit more time today than I think even yesterday. You've got about 30 minutes. Okay, take advantage of that. You'll have 3 assignments on Khan Academy. You need to have those done by 8:30 tomorrow morning.